Right, I think it's time to get started. So, good morning and welcome to our webinar, where we're going to explore the options available for you to work with address data in your GIS applications now that LocatorHub is retiring. I'm Valerie Heinsohn and I head up the ArcGIS localization team at Esri UK. One of our main remits is to make it easy for you to use local data in the ArcGIS system. Today we will be focusing on address data. I'm pleased to say that I'm joined today by Peter McDade, who is the Product Manager for UK Data Loader, and also by Hannah Pitchers, who is the Product Engineer for our addressing solutions. Before we start, I'd just like to run you through some housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, and we will share the link with you in a follow-up email so that you can rewatch or share with your colleagues. The follow-up email will be sent out on Friday and will also include links to useful resources and a feedback survey. We would be very grateful if you can complete the survey to provide us with valuable feedback on this webinar and to help improve future events. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. You can submit your questions at any time using Slido. You can access this directly using the QR code which is shown on the screen or at www.slido.com using the event and passcode also shown on the screen. Within Slido, you will also be able to see the questions that others are asking, and you can upvote these if they are also important to you. We will try and answer as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar. In the next half hour, we are going to explore with you the different options available to use addresses within the ArcGIS system. We all use addresses every day. They are a ubiquitous way of describing the location of people, places, and assets. The most common use case is using an address to navigate to the area of interest on a map. We call this geosearching. Another common application is geocoding, which is adding XY locations to your data. Both of these use cases require a locator, which is the reference data of all of the addresses or assets with their location information. By matching your address to a locator, you can find the location of your address and use this either to zoom to the area of interest on the map or to enhance your data with XY coordinates for further spatial analysis. During this webinar, we will show you some of the options available to you now and also share with you our plans for further development of these solutions to meet your requirements. We welcome your feedback on these plans, which we will use to inform our future priorities and roadmap. I am sure many of you are familiar with LocatorHub, which is an Esri UK product that was released around 15 years ago. LocatorHub has been in extended support since January 2021 and in mature support since last July. It is due to retire at the end of this year, so if you have not already done so, now is the time to plan your migration to alternative solutions. The decision to retire LocatorHub has been driven by a number of factors, including updates to the core ArcGIS technology, as well as offerings from partners, such as the Ordnance Survey's OS Places API and IDOC's Aligned Assets Gazetteer Management System. Over the last few years, we have been working closely with our colleagues in the ArcGIS Geocoding development team to help them understand some of the peculiarities of the addresses in the UK and ensure that the tools in ArcGIS Pro to create locators work well with our local addresses. Through this work, we have seen significant improvements at each release of the Create Locator tool in ArcGIS Pro. These improvements have included higher address matching rates and higher accuracy in address matching results, including less false positives, where you match an address to the wrong address, in addition to overall improvements in performance. The updates to the core ArcGIS technology have enabled us to add the capability to UK Data Loader to build native ArcGIS locators. UK Data Loader is a toolbox in ArcGIS Pro which provides tools to load Ordnance Survey data into ArcGIS. UK Data Loader now includes tools which allow you to build locators from Address Space Premium, Address Space Core, and from your own local Land and Property Gazetteer or Corporate Address Gazetteer. We are continuing to make further improvements to these tools, and we will be sharing with you today some of our plans for future releases. We have also been working closely with the Ordnance Survey to help integrate their solutions into the ArcGIS system. In 2021, we released a connector to the OS Places API, which allows you to use this service as if it were an Esri geocoding service. This connector is available free of charge from the ArcGIS Marketplace. We are working hard to make sure that you have the information you need to help you plan your migration away from LocatorHub. Today's webinar being an important part of our wider communication plan. We've also released blogs about LocatorHub's retirements and are committed to continue to provide advice and information on the other options available. In addition, your customer success managers and our professional services team will be able to support you in discussing the best options for you. I'm now going to hand over to Hannah, who will take you through the options available to replace LocatorHub at your organisation. Over to you, Hannah.
Thank you very much, Val. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you all a high-level overview about what each of the options are, and then we'll do a deeper dive using some demos. So as you can see, there are many different options available, and it can be that you utilise some of these options in conjunction with each other to best suit your use case and your organisation. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to run through each of these options quickly, just to highlight when and why you might decide to use it. So using the World Geocoding service hosted in ArcGIS Online is free as part of your subscription, or it can be made available on-premise. So this option is really recommended when you need simple map searching or geocoding where rooftop accuracy is not really required. And what I mean by rooftop accuracy is where the location doesn't have to be on the doorstep of the address, but instead it can be partway down the road, for example. Next up is the OS Places API using the connector for OS Places API by Esri UK. And this option is recommended when you want the ability to search for a single address within the UK. It's updated daily and maintained by the Ordnance Survey. This is a great option if you have a public sector geospatial agreement or PSGA, as it is free for PSGA members. The next option is moving to ArcGIS Enterprise and using ArcGIS Locators. These are built using ArcGIS Pro and with the UK data loader. We recommend this option when the OS Places API or the World Geocoder do not meet your needs. It allows for batch geocoding as well as single address searches against locators, which are created using UK data loader. This can either be done using the tools or can be pre-built by Esri UK for you. The next option is to utilise a partner solution. So utilising a partner solution which supports the ArcGIS REST API and full corporate gazetteer functionality, such as IDOCS's Aligned Assets Gazetteer Management System. And we recommend this option when you require a more complete address management solution. This solution supports OS's address-based premium as well as the National Geographic Database, NGD. And we'll provide more information on this option in our follow-up email, or you can contact us or your CSM to discuss further. And finally, you can make use of the free Esri UK locators. This includes the OS CodePoint Open Postcode Locator, the OS Open Names Locator, and the BNG Locator. And this option is recommended when you want to do batch geocoding or simple address searching against OS CodePoint for postcode searches, OS Open Names for place names, or British National Grid. So now that I've given you a high-level overview of the options, what I'm going to do is we're going to dive into some of the demos on each of these. We're not going to be demoing aligned assets today, but we will be providing additional resources after the webinar. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up ArcGIS Pro and I'm going to start by talking you through UK Data Loader. So UK Data Loader is a toolbox for ArcGIS Pro, and it allows you to import Ordnance Survey data, including address-based core, address-based premium, as well as your own LLPG and CAG data. And it allows you to turn that data into ArcGIS locators. If you want to publish your locators, it does require ArcGIS Enterprise or a standalone ArcGIS server. But once published, it's ready to utilise throughout the ArcGIS system, including ArcGIS Online. So really under the hood of UK Data Loader is actually a set of Esri tools which are out of the box, specifically for the creation of the locators, which utilises the Create Locators tool. We package it all up in a toolbox for you to make it easier for you to create a set of standard locators which we think will be most useful in most use cases. However, as we are just using a set of standard locators, which standard locators, you can actually go and do things such as applying additional filters, joins, or even adding fields. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you what ArcGIS locators look like when they are created using UK Data Loader and published to ArcGIS Enterprise. So I'm just going to bring up my web application here. And so what I have here is I have an address-based core locator. So the first thing that I'm going to show you within my ArcGIS Enterprise application here is I'm going to show you some suggestions. So these have really increased in intelligence over the last few releases. And really a suggestion is just the way to predict what is about to be written or searched upon. So my first example is that I'm going to start typing number 56 and then Rifford Road. I'm just going to do a quick refresh on this. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to start typing my address. So it was number 56 and it was Rifford Road. So as I start typing more of Rifford Road, you'll see the suggestions start to narrow down until I'm given the one suggestion that I'm after. So I'm then able to zoom to that suggestion. So the more I typed, the more accurate it is. And so the next functionality I want to share with you is some new functionality, and it's all about subaddress summaries. So by this, what I mean is that there is a primary address. So this could potentially be a block of flats. And within that, you want to understand how many properties are at that single location. So the example that I'm going to show here is Bearing Flats. So I'm going to start typing in Bearing Flats. And the bit that I'm interested in that's giving me my summary is the bit in brackets. So it's showing me that there are 1 to 6 properties at this single location. So I'm then able to scroll down the list, find the one that I'm interested in, which is number 3, Bearing Flats, and I'm able to zoom to that location. So the subaddress summary was brought in at Pro 3.0 and Enterprise 11, and this can be enabled within your properties of your actual locator. So we'll be providing additional documentation on this so that you can all use this new functionality if you want to. You can still publish locators at an older version of Enterprise and created using an older version of ArcGIS Pro, but you may find that you lose some of the functionality increases that we've seen at the latest versions. So we always recommend that you use the latest and greatest, but we know that that is not always possible. As you've published your own geocoding service, you can do things such as batch geocoding, which is where you bulk locate a set of addresses, and you can do this without using credits like you would with the World Geocoding service, because you've actually implemented it on your own infrastructure. You can also add your newly published geocoding service to ArcGIS Online to allow you to utilize it there as well as within other web applications. And as Val mentioned earlier, we have seen some great enhancements to ArcGIS Locators over the last few releases. And the main place that we've seen this is within the partial address entry for address searching. So if I was to type in my address, so I'm actually going to type in just a postcode and a building number. So number 3 and then EX4 and then 6TA. And obviously that does give me back my suggestion for that particular address. But what I actually want to do now is I want to just hit enter, and this will then return the result through this new out of the box functionality. And this functionality was added last year. So as we are within ArcGIS Enterprise at the moment, I just want to draw your attention to the other locators that I've made available within this application. So you can see I've been using the address-based core locator. I also have the OS Places API, the World Geocoding service, as well as the Esri UK locators available. And these are just available in that single application, so I can start using them in conjunction with each other. What you can also start doing is exploring some of the possibilities with locators, such as composite locators, which is where you bundle up a variety of different locators into a single geocoding service. And this really could be a great option for some of our customers. And what we've actually done today is we've published a blog article on this exact topic, so please check it out. We will also include a link to this blog in our follow-up email. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Pete to demo the other options available to you.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. So what I'm going to do now is just going to look at some of the other locators we have available. So we'll have a look at the World Geocoding service. We'll look at the OS Places API, and then also at some of the free open locators that we provide as Esri UK. So the World Geocoding service, so this can be useful in many use cases. It contains a lot of data from a lot of different sources, including things like the OS open names, data from here, and many other sources. So it is a fairly rich locator, which has a lot of useful information in there for you. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at how it works, first of all. So when you search for an address using the World Geocoding service in one of the applications, it prioritizes the results for the map view that you're looking at. So if I search for an address here, it will prioritize ones here, and if I zoom further out, you may not get exactly the same results. So that's always something to bear in mind, but that can actually be very useful. So for example, if I search for Old Brewery Close, what we'll see is that's coming up with some suggestions for me, and the first one that's coming up is for Aylesbury because that's where we're looking for. So that will zoom us in. So I've been able to search for the street. It's taken us to that street, and that's what a lot of people want to do. That's all they need because they're just coming to look at the map, and it's just to get you to the right area so you can then look at the information that's there. It also, because it has the OS open names data, we have the postcode information there as well. So if I search for HP21 7QG, again, that takes us to the postcode for the head office. So if you have people that are searching for postcode or want to find that sort of information, again, it's very useful. Now, we often refer to terms as the types locator as rooftop addressing. Rooftop addressing is where if you search for a location, it takes you, as it suggests, to the rooftop. So it'll take you to the exact place where that address is. Now, the World Geocoding service is not rooftop. If, for example, we're looking at number 32 here, if I searched for 32 Highbridge Road and select that, you can see it's dropped me a point close by, but the point it's taken me to isn't exactly on number 32. So that is something to bear in mind when you're using the World Geocoding service. But again, it got me very close. Unless you need very accurate delivery information or something like that, that may be enough for what you're looking for. So let's just jump onto the OS Places API. So this is provided by the Ordnance Survey. It's their direct way of accessing their rich addressing data. The data in the OS Places API is address-based premium data, and it's updated daily from GeoPlace. So it's a very up-to-date, accurate bit of data there that you have. Now, it's available, as we said, to PSGA members, so it is recommended as a potential solution for many of our PSGA members. And the only thing we need to do is to use the OS Places API directly in the ArcGIS system, we needed to create a connector. Now, what this connector does is it makes the OS Places API look like an ArcGIS geocoding service. This way, it can be used throughout the ArcGIS system as a normal or as a standard ArcGIS geocoding service or locator would be. It just makes the integration that much more slick, essentially. So the connector itself you can request access through the marketplace. If you just go request that, and it's like I said, it's free of charge for you to use. So you go and request access. Once you have access, we'll then give you access to a page which will allow you to configure your locators, so you can choose the various options and the types of locators that you want to create and enter your API key. I'll come back to this in a minute and just show a few things on there. But once you've created that, you can share that locator with your organization and embed it within your applications. So I've got it in here, the OS Places API. And if we were to search for, say, Esri UK, this has taken my request, sent it via our connector through to the OS Places API, and then we're returning it to you. So there we have Esri UK, and that will take us directly to where we want to be. Now, as we saw before, we're looking back at the whole rooftop addressing idea. So before, when we searched using the World Geocoding service, we've got a point somewhere over here. Now, if I do this for the OS Places API, then when we get that point in there, if I just zoom in a bit further, you can see the point is actually right on the building. So this is, as we referred to it before, rooftop addressing. So you can get very accurate results to exactly where the property is. Now, one thing that people came up with when we first started using this, feedback from yourselves, was that often what you want to do is search for an address and retrieve the UPRN, so you can record that UPRN so that in the future you have a direct access to that property. So what we did is we created one of the options in the connector is to prefix with UPRN. And what that will do is if I search for that same address here, Aylesbury, when the result comes up, you can see the UPRN is prefixed onto the address. So it's immediately there. I can copy it straight away, and I now have that UPRN. And if I wanted to go back to here and search via that UPRN, you can see it's found my address straight away. So the OS Place API has the ability to search via UPRN as well, and we've given you the ability to show that UPRN immediately in the pop-up box rather than having to try and drill down through any of the address information to get there. So subsequent to that, probably the biggest bit of feedback we had through ourselves and potentially through the Ordnance Survey as well, was that people wanted to be able to restrict the searching to certain geographic areas, and that wasn't something that was available. As you saw, when I'm searching with the OS Place API, I've had to type Aylesbury in there to make sure that it's going to the right area. Towards the end of last year, the Ordnance Survey added the ability to filter the results as well. So what they've done is they've added the ability to filter by several different areas. Now this we're looking at here is our test version of the system, so you won't be able to see these at the moment, but this version will be released in the next couple of weeks. But what I can do is I can set up through here locators which filter by country. They're by logical status, so are they current addresses, are they historical addresses, but also by custodian code. So what I can do is I can set up a locator that just searches for addresses within Milton Keynes. Now I've already set that up and made it available in my application here. So if I zoom all the way out, and I'll just show you the difference of what happens here. If I'm zoomed out all the way to the GB, if I start typing an address, so Longleat Court, or what I'm getting results for Northampton, Tamworth, Bedford, as you can see, for all over the place. However, if I use instead the Milton Keynes one, when I start typing, let me just try that again, make sure I've actually selected the right one. Milton Keynes only, one, Longleat Court. As you can see, it's only bringing back addresses from within Milton Keynes. And I can select that and it will take me to that address. What you can do is not just restrict it to a single one, so I could include areas that are around Milton Keynes as well. So, I can add, I think, up to about 20 of these. So it gives me more of a wider context, not just the ones that are managed by the Milton Keynes custodian. So like I said, this is something that we added for yourselves. It'll be available next couple of weeks, and we'd really appreciate some feedback on that once it's out there, and have a look at what else we can do for you. And the final part I just wanted to quickly touch on are the open locators that we have been publishing for quite a long time now. So we have 3 locators. We have the open names locator, the OS code point locator, and BNG locator. As I suggest, this is the OS open names data sitting behind this. This is the code points of the postcodes, which are also in open names. And what we can do is that just allows us to search for, again, let's try the HP217QG, and that allows us to search for postcodes or any of the data within OS open names. And again, this is postcodes. The BNG locator is for where you want to search for OS grid references. So if, for example, I search for N166712, so I have an OS grid reference here. If I search for that, you see it takes me to the summit of Ben Nevis. So you can use this to give a geographical point where you've captured these sorts of addresses. In terms of bulk geocoding, so this is where we have a large table of data and you want to add that geographical context to that data. The open locators will do that for you. So if you have a table with lots of grid references in there or postcodes, you can use these. The World Geocoding service will do that, but with the World Geocoding service, it will cost you credits. So just be a little bit careful about sending huge amounts of data to there about what that credit cost will be. The open locators are entirely free for that. Everything I've shown you here is in ArcGIS Online. The things that Hannah showed you earlier is in ArcGIS Enterprise, but the address-based locator that she published through Enterprise, I can add a link into ArcGIS Online and use that through here as well. So you can use all of those across the system as well. Okay, and I think let's just go on to the next part. So what I'll do is I'll quickly just switch over back to the slides. So one of the things we wanted to do is there's a lot of options available. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we give you as much information as possible. We've put together this matrix that starts to give the information about what certain things can do, what they can't do, and the different options. I'm not going to go through all of this now because there's a lot of information there, and we'll update this as we go, but it will be shared as part of the follow-up information that we send you. So what's next? Let's quickly run through a few other things that we're looking at. So the filtering that I showed you on the OS Places API, that's one of the main things will be out in the next week or two, and we'll certainly put a blog out about that and give you some ideas as to how you can set those things up. Some fields in the UK data loader locators. So when we created the locators, we've filled them with as much information as we think is needed to create an accurate locator and to give you good information about those addresses. It doesn't contain every bit of information about every address. So following some feedback from yourselves, we're going to add some additional fields into there so that that information is available for you. And that'll be coming in the next version of the UK data loader. In the next quarter, so before the sort of half year, we'll start adding support for address-based islands data into the UK data loader so that we can start to pull that information in and create locators from that as well. Again, that's something that you guys have been asking for. We have suggestions coming for the free locators. So at the moment with the free locators, you just need the open locators. You just need to type in your full search term and press enter. What we're going to do is start adding in the suggestions into there as well, so that you get a more smooth sort of transition between the various locators you have. Some more communication and documentation. So as we're going through this, there's a lot of information. We'll share some more, obviously, as the follow-up to this, but as we come across, more frequently asked questions from people or people with certain use cases that requires a little bit more information, we'll start to put those together, put out some more blogs and things for you. And the continued improvements. So whilst we've made big strides, particularly in the ArcGIS locators over the last couple of years, it's not finished. We're still working with the ArcGIS geocoding team to improve things, improve how suggestions work, look at the different ways in which addresses can be searched. And the same on, like we said, on the OS Places API, the connector there, we've taken on board your feedback along with the OS, and they've done a lot of work, so we're supporting the work that they've done. So continue to let us know, particularly about the various things you want us to look at, the things that are going well, the things that aren't going so well. And we're very much guided by you in terms of the work that we're doing. So please do let us know what it is you want us to look at. So I think with that, that pretty much covers most of what I want to cover. So I think I'm handing back to Val now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hannah and Pete, for taking us through those different options and showing you them in action. I hope that you all now feel much better informed and are able to explore further which of these options are right for your use cases. If you are still using LocatorHub, then now is the time to plan your migration, as LocatorHub is retiring at the end of this year. In our follow-up email from this webinar, we will send you links to useful resources, including the functionality matrix that Pete just showed, and further information on the iDocs Aligned Assets Gazetteer Management System. Thank you for all the questions that have been submitted through Slido so far. So in the time remaining, we will try and answer as many as we can. If you did miss the link at the beginning of the session, then you can see that on your screen now. So you can use that QR code to go straight to the Q&A, where you can both add your own questions or upvote the questions that are already there. So we will now try and answer as many of your questions as we can. If we're not able to answer them, then we are also publishing a frequently asked questions, and we'll be regularly updating that and make sure that we do get answers to any questions that we aren't able to answer today. But let's go to the questions. So hopefully Hannah and Pete are still there, because I think we've got more chance of answering these with our experts on hand. So I'm going to broadly take them from the ones that have been upvoted the most, but obviously we'll try and take ones together that logically sit together. So the first question we have is, if we were to build a locator using our local land and property gazetteer, how does it deal with daily change-only updates?
I can take that one if you like. So each time the data is updated, you do need to rebuild the locator. Now, what we've done is we have worked with our implementation services team on this particular question. So where you take an extract from your LLPG overnight, we do have scripts that allow that to actually rebuild the locator every night, overnight, as that extract comes out, and then republish the locator. So if that's a particular thing you want us to do, talk to your CSM, talk to ourselves, and we can help you implement that. We definitely have a pattern for doing that.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Pete. Next question is, can you get a list of addresses for a postcode or a street?
I'll probably take that one as well. So I think there's a couple of questions around this similar idea on there. So directly out of the UK data loader locators, no, you can't. It's not something that you can do. I think if you look around at how we search for addresses throughout the internet and various websites and different companies, there's a lot of different approaches that different sites take. Some of them give you a big long list of addresses, for a postcode, and you can scroll through and choose the one that you want. Others ask for you to put in the house number and postcode and return the address, because usually you will know the house number or postcode that you're looking for as well. ArcGIS allows you to do that, but it's designed around this idea of suggestions. The suggestions is a new thing that most people won't really have seen that much, but the idea is, as you type your address, you know which address that you're searching for, and it will usually get you to that address much faster using the suggestions idea. Now, it is different to how some people are used to searching, particularly where they've been using LocatorHub and they have custom applications in there, but it is just a slightly different way of handling addresses. if you want to get, I think one of the other questions is about sort of searching for postcodes with UK data load ones. You can't search for a specific postcode and get out an address, but what you could do is you can use one of these composite locators. So, have your address space locator and then say the OS open names locator. And when you search for an address, because that search for a postcode, because that postcode won't be found as a single record within your address space data, it will then fall to the OS open names locator and find that and take you to the location. So it is a little bit different, but we've found that it does suit a lot of people. We are working with some of the partners as well around where they do have requirements for long lists of addresses when you search for postcode. So we're working with them about approaches that they can take as well. But it is something we're aware of and something that we're working on.
Okay, thanks, Pete. I think you might have taken a few of the questions there, but we'll
Probably,
pick
yeah.
them off when we come to them. Thank you for all the votes that are coming in. The one at the top keeps changing on us. That's keeping us on our toes. But I'm going to go with the one at the top still, which is now, which of the options would be best for the following example, matching a list of 18,000 addresses to UPRNs?
I can take that one if you like.
Thanks, Hannah.
So I think in that kind of scenario, you'd probably be using UK data loader. Obviously, it does depend on potentially what you are kind of trying to match it on. At the moment, the UPRN locator is available through address space premium datasets. So it's a locator that's created out of the box if you're creating your address space premium locators. So you'd be able to bulk geocode against that if you wanted to.
That's great. Thank you, Hannah. So the next question is the iDocs aligned asset gazetteer management system the only option that uses your own address gazetteer?
I can take that one. So I think what we're referring to there is like the LLPG or the CAG data in Scotland. So no, you can create locators from your LLPG data and CAG data using UK data loader. It is one of the other options. It doesn't just deal with address-based premium, but that is the main use case we have. So that's the main one we mentioned.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Which of the options mentioned, if any, support reverse geocoding?
Might as well take that one. So the World Geocoding service, if you create locators from the UK data loader ones, they do it as well. Now that question's come up, I've realised that's one thing that's missing from our matrix. So we'll add that in before we send it out, and we'll let you know which ones support it and which ones don't. The free locators at the moment don't, but that is something that we're looking at potentially with the enhancements for suggestions as well. But we'll include that in the matrix and make sure it's clear for everybody.
That's great. So we've got a question that's going to improve our materials. So that's really positive. So thanks for that feedback and that question. Which of the options replaces the LocatorHub REST web services functionality? I guess it's a combination of the answer is a combination of what we've shown you, isn't it? Do you want to add to that, Hannah?
Yeah, so obviously you have the REST endpoint will be available for any of the ArcGIS locators that you publish. You'll have the REST endpoint available through there. So you can utilize that if that is what you want to use.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Is it possible to easily determine whether existing locators are using LocatorHub?
That's an interesting one. I think you would need to go and have a look at your setup so if it says through ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, you would need to go and look at the locator items you have set up in there. It will show you the URL that it's pointing to, and that URL will usually contain the name LocatorHub. I think it's probably a very specific question to a specific customer. If you're struggling, contact us and we can see if we can help you look at everything for you.
Yeah, thank you. Will the current UK data loader be improved to use fields with an address space premium rather than the American address format in Pro?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I mentioned on the what's coming next. So in order to fulfill the geocoding specification so that the system understands everything, there are a set of standard fields that come out. What we can do is we can configure additional fields to put into there. So that's what we have done. There are some additional fields that come out, but if there are specific fields that you need, then please let us know, because these are things we can add later. But they're there as additional fields as opposed to the sort of standard ones you would see at the top of the list of attributes that come through.
Okay, thanks, Pete. I think we probably covered the next one, which is, can you search by postcode only? I think you covered that, Pete, in your previous answer. So. Can you change how many suggestions are shown?
Yeah, so I can take this. So within, it depends which option you're going for. If you're using ArcGIS Locators, you can configure the locator properties. So within ArcGIS Pro, before you publish your locator, you can go in and you can change how many suggestions are returned, the maximum number of match results that are returned, and then as well as the default as well. And then once you then publish it, you can then change it again if you wanted to within the actual applications themselves. So if you're using some of Web App Builder, or if you're using some of our instant apps, you can also edit how many suggestions and results are returned through the configuration of that application. And that's the same for any locator. So you can change it within the app for any locator.
Thank you, Hannah. The next one is on the OS Places connector. So can this be added to an existing web app made using the Web App Builder? It's not coming up as an option for me.
You should be able to add it. I think with the Web App Builder, there's probably a very specific question. I probably need to get in with them. But with the Web App Builder, when you create the search widget, it gets a list of the locators from your organization at that point. It might be that we need to remove that and add it back in so you can see the new locator in there. But if you're struggling, I'd say just raise it as a support call, and it may come through to us, and we can help you with that.
I guess it depends where you are, because you obviously do need to go through and configure and set up the OS Places API connector as a locator for your organization. So if you haven't done that, then I guess it won't come up as an option anywhere. So maybe it's that initial configuration that also needs to be covered. Is a what 3 words locator included?
You can set up a what 3 words locator.
Yeah, provided by what 3 words, I believe. So
I believe there is a load of documentation out there. It's something that I have done. So I think it's relatively easy to kind of get started with, but it's something that you'd set up yourselves, and you can then include it in any applications, or even within ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, or ArcGIS Enterprise if you decided that was the route you wanted to go down.
Yes, I believe there is one available through our partner, What 3 Words, which is good. So this is back to OS Place, I think. Can you exclude on the custodian code on the new locator so that you could do an out of area search and a within area search?
I don't think that's an option. I'll check. It's certainly not something we're implementing, because I don't think that's an option that's been given by the OS on their API. But we can query that with them.
And great, most of these questions are anonymous, but if we've got more information on the use case, obviously we can be talking to our contacts at the Ordnance Survey as well. So it's great if people can provide us with more information. How can the drill down search option be replicated? I think we've covered that because we talked about that more at the beginning. Do you want to say anything more on that, Pete?
Yeah, I think if there's specific places you have that drill down working and you're trying to replicate it or that sort of thing, and you need some help, then contact us directly and we can look specifically at the things you're looking at. But
I think we'll maybe just take a couple more questions. We've got a lot of questions coming in. What we will do is make sure that they're covered in the frequently asked questions, which will come out in the email. So, thanks for all the questions. It's great there's so many. I suggest we just take another couple, if that's okay with Hannah and Pete. So, can you use the OS Places API Connect locator in ArcMap?
The answer is yes, you can. So you have to use the OS Places API directly. So that will be in our frequently asked questions document. You have to add it as an ArcGIS server service. So you put in the API URL. You then put in your key and your password into the user name and password credentials, and that should go through for you. We will be providing that information in the FAQ document that will follow this. So there will be kind of a short bit of information there for you.
Okay, I was going to stop there, but one question just got upvoted with 6 votes now, so we'll go with this as our last question. How often are the Esri free open locators going to be updated? Currently, OS Names is a year old.
It is annually currently that we do that, but as we move to slightly newer technology, we may look to improve it and increase that. But at the moment, we do just update them once a year. But like I say, with our free base maps and things, we've moved to 6 monthly updates, and we may look to increase the frequency of the free ones as well.
Okay, so hopefully we got to most of the popular questions there. And as I say, we will go through the other questions that have been sent in and make sure that we are covering answers to those in the materials that we send out too. So I think it just remains for me to thank you for joining us today. I hope you found that informative, and we hope we will be speaking to you again soon. So thank you very much, everybody. Good morning.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.